Today, we're ranking the strongest anime character for every letter of the alphabet, from A all the way to the letter Z. But that's not all. To make things even more interesting, every winning character will earn 1 point for their universe, and by the end, we'll compare the total points to see which anime universe truly deserves the title of the strongest universe. But one quick ground rule though, we're sticking strictly to major characters from each universe, because let's be real, if we didn't, half this list would just be random gods of destruction from Dragon Ball, and where's the fun in that? So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and let's get right into it. The first alphabet we have is of course A. Here we have 5 characters to choose from. Let's start with Asta. Born completely without magic in a world where magic is everything, Asta makes up for it through relentless training and the power of anti-magic. His mastery over his unique ability, especially after learning Zetten, allows him to negate and overpower even the strongest magical attacks. Next is Akaza, upper rank 3 of the 12 Kizuki. A martial arts prodigy, Akaza despises weakness and respects only strength. His blood demon art, Destructive Death, lets him accurately sense and counter his opponent's movements, making him an incredibly dangerous close-range fighter. Then we have Aizen, the definition of a mastermind. Aizen planned out decades of events without anyone noticing. With Kyokusui Getsu, he can place anyone under complete and perfect hypnosis, controlling all 5 of their senses. Combined with his fusion with the Hogyoku, he is practically an immortal godlike being. The last 2 characters we have here are Anos Voldigode and the Anti-Spiral. One is the Demon King of Tyranny, an absolute pinnacle of overpowered anime characters. He doesn't just have immense magical power, he routinely breaks the fundamental laws of logic, time, and reality just to flex on his opponents. On the other hand, the Anti-Spiral is a godlike cosmic entity, born from a collective consciousness. It possesses near-omnipotent reality-warping abilities, capable of throwing literal galaxies like shuriken and manipulating probabilities themselves. Now, who are you going to choose here? Personally, I'd go with Anos. You see, Asta is a physical beast, Akaza is a lethal martial artist, and Aizen is a master manipulator with god-tier hacks. The Anti-Spiral is literally out here throwing galaxies around, but Anos is the ultimate I refuse your reality and substitute my own character. He doesn't just bend the rules of a fight, he completely obliterates them. Then there's Venus Donoa, arguably one of the most broken weapons in anime. It doesn't just destroy objects, it destroys reason itself, allowing Anos to cut through concepts, dimensions, barriers, and even the laws of reality. Defeating him isn't as simple as being stronger, because many of his abilities activate regardless of the power difference, which means the misfit of Demon King Academy universe gets 1 point. Now, while Anos can literally destroy reason itself, what if I told you that you could actually sit down and talk to these absolute powerhouses yourself? Because with Polybuzz AI, you can chat with them about anything you want. For example, right after I decided to give the letter A to Anos, I went straight to Polybuzz and asked Aizen the one question we're all thinking. Aizen, was losing the letter A to Anos actually just part of your grand plan? His response? Let's just say his ego is exactly what you'd expect. But to see exactly what he said, you're going to have to download Polybuzz and ask him yourself. You see, with Polybuzz AI, you can now chat with your favorite anime and fictional characters about literally anything. Whether you want to debate power scaling with Goku, talk strategy with Aizen, or just want to chat with your favorite waifus like Nami and Robin, Polybuzz makes it a reality. It's free, insanely fun, and as an anime fan, you will never get bored of it, as the selection of anime characters they have is honestly endless. Use code ANNIE88 to get access to 3 days of premium membership completely free of charge. Use my link in the description down below to download Polybuzz AI and start chatting with your favorite anime characters today. But now, let's get back to our video. Next, for Alphabet B, we have 4 characters to choose from. First, we have Bakugo. His primary power is his explosion quirk, which allows him to secrete a nitroglycerin-like sweat from his palms and detonate it at will. This ability gives him devastating offensive power, incredible aerial mobility, and high-speed maneuverability. Next, we have Boros, the self-proclaimed dominator of the universe. During his fight against Saitama, Boros survived 3 normal punches, the consecutive normal punches barrage, and even the shockwave from Saitama's serious punch. Saitama himself acknowledged Boros' strength, calling him the strongest opponent he had faced up to that point. Honestly, that's enough to tell just how powerful he was. Then we have Blackbeard. He is the only person to wield 2 devil fruits simultaneously. The dark fruit lets him nullify devil fruit powers and generate darkness capable of swallowing entire towns, while the tremor fruit grants him earthquake abilities powerful enough to threaten islands and oceans. And lastly, we have Beerus, the god of destruction of Universe 7 and one of the strongest divine beings in Dragon Dragon Ball Super. His mastery of Ultra Instinct principles, overwhelming combat skill, and the Hakai technique, which can erase targets from existence, place him among the highest tiers in the franchise. And I think we all know who's taking the crown here: Beerus. You see, this round isn't even particularly close. While Boros, Blackbeard, and Bakugo are all monsters within their own universes, Beerus exists on an entirely different level of power. So with that said, the Dragon Ball universe gets 1 point as well. Next, we have the alphabet C. Alright, here we only have 2 characters, Sid Kageno and Cell. And I'll be direct here. Sid's magical abilities are devastating within his own world. His I Am Atomic attack can wipe out cities with ease, and his combination of overwhelming mana, swordsmanship, and tactical intelligence makes him virtually untouchable against almost every opponent he faces. However, his feats remain grounded within a fantasy setting. Cell, on the other hand, in his perfect form, possesses absurd physical strength, faster than light combat speed, near limitless stamina, and regeneration that allows him to recover from catastrophic damage. He also inherits techniques from Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Frieza, and several other elite warriors, making him one of the most complete and simply stronger fighter here, which means the Dragon Ball universe gets its 2nd point and takes the lead. Next, for alphabet D, we have 3 characters. The very first character is Deku. You see, Deku inherited All for One and eventually unlocked the quirks of its previous users, combining immense physical strength with abilities like Gear Shift, Fajin, Danger Sense, Black Whip, and Float. Deku became the strongest hero of his generation. Then we have Dio Brando, one of the most iconic villains in anime, who possesses one of the strongest stands, the world, granting him the ability to stop time for up to 10 seconds. On top of that, his vampiric nature gives him incredible regeneration and superhuman physical abilities. Lastly, we have Don Quixote do Flamingo, who wields the string fruit. He can manipulate people like puppets, create razor-sharp string constructs, produce the nearly indestructible birdcage, plus he possesses all 3 forms of hockey as well. Now, the one I'm going to choose here is none other than Dio Brando. Well, don't get me wrong, Deku is physically the strongest of the 3 and possesses incredible speed and versatility thanks to All for One. But Dio has hacks on his side. He can completely stop time, leaving his opponents frozen while he moves freely. During those precious seconds, he can attack relentlessly without giving his enemies any opportunity to defend themselves or counterattack. That's why I'll be taking Dio here. And with that, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure gets its 1st point. Next, it's time for alphabet E. Here, the options are Eren Yeager, Edward Elric, Escanor, and Enrico Pucci. Now, I think we can all agree that Escanor and Pucci are in a league of their own, so we'll be disregarding Eren and Edward here. Now, between Escanor and Pucci, who are you going to choose? I mean, this battle once again comes down to a classic clash of overwhelming physical power versus conceptual hacks. And to be honest, I'm leaning towards the hacks here. You see, with his final stand, Pucci accelerates the flow of time for the entire universe. Meanwhile, Escanor, the lion's sin of pride, simply grows stronger as the sun rises. That also means Escanor is still bound by the normal flow of time, while Pucci's speed continues to increase until it effectively reaches infinite levels. To Escanor, Pucci would become nearly impossible to perceive, turning him into a completely stationary target. Not only that, Escanor's peak form, the One, lasts for exactly 60 seconds. Pucci can accelerate time so dramatically that those 60 seconds pass in a fraction of a millisecond, instantly reverting Escanor back to his frail knight form. So yeah, we'll be going with Pucci here, and with that, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure gets its 2nd point. Next, for alphabet F, we again have 3 options to choose from, and those are Freyren, Father, and Frieza. Alright, I won't drag this one out too much. Freyren is an ancient elven mage whose centuries of experience have made her one of the greatest magic users in her world, and Father, from Full Metal Alchemist, gained near godlike abilities after absorbing the power of truth. But against Frieza? Nah, they aren't winning this one. With the arrival of Black Frieza, he reached a level where he effortlessly defeated Ultra Instinct Goku and Ultra Ego Vegeta simultaneously, showcasing power that eclipsed some of the strongest mortals in Dragon Ball. His speed, destructive capability, durability, and combat instincts are on a completely different scale from the other 2 contenders. Even before his newest transformation, Frieza could annihilate planets with ease, and now his strength extends to the highest tiers of the franchise. Neither Freyren's magic nor Father's alchemy can realistically overcome the sheer gap in speed and raw power. So for the letter F, Frieza comfortably takes the win, meaning the Dragon Ball universe earns its 3rd point and extends its lead. Then we have alphabet G. Here we can go with Gojo Satoru, the strongest modern sorcerer in Jujutsu Kaisen, blessed with both the 6 eyes and the limitless technique. Or we can take Gon, who, in his adult form, became so powerful that he defeated Neferpitou with ease. Then we have Guts, Guts, the legendary black swordsman who has survived countless battles against demons, apostles, and monsters far stronger than himself. But the one we're actually going with is none other than Goku. I mean, Goku has spent decades fighting opponents capable of shaking or threatening entire universes. His mastery of Ultra Instinct allows him to move and react instinctively at incomprehensible speeds, while his raw power has reached levels that dwarf anything the other three have demonstrated. More importantly, Goku has repeatedly overcome opponents with tricky abilities through his adaptability, combat experience, and overwhelming strength. Although Gojo's Infinity is undeniably his biggest advantage against someone who massively outscales him in speed, power, and overall scaling, it's difficult to see it changing the outcome. So for the letter G, we're taking Goku. And with that, the Dragon Ball universe earns yet another point. Next, with the alphabet H, we have Hiromi Higuruma, Hisoka, and Hashirama Senju. Higuruma is a former lawyer turned Jujutsu sorcerer, whose domain expansion, Deadly Sentencing, is one of the most unique abilities in Jujutsu Kaisen. Instead of overpowering opponents directly, his domain puts them on trial, potentially confiscating their abilities or even granting Higuruma the Executioner's Sword, which can annihilate anyone with a single strike. Hashirama, on the other hand, is known as the God of Shinobi. He was the founder of Konohagakure and the strongest ninja of his era. His wood release allows him to create gigantic forests, dragons, and the colossal 1,000-armed Buddha, capable of overpowering even the Nine Tails. On top of that, his Sage Mode, massive chakra reserves, and unparalleled regeneration made him powerful enough to defeat Madara Uchiha at the height of his strength. Hisoka, meanwhile, is one of Hunter x Hunter's most unpredictable and deadly characters. His Nen ability, Bungee Gum, combines the properties of both rubber and gum, allowing him to outsmart opponents in countless creative ways. Now, out of the three, the obvious winner is Hashirama. I mean, this guy was powerful enough to defeat Madara Uchiha and control the tailed beast through sheer strength. The power gap between him and the other two is simply too massive. That means we'll be going with Hashirama here, and with that, the Naruto universe gets its very first point. Now with alphabet I, we yet again have three candidates: Itachi Uchiha, Imu, and Ichigo Kurosaki. Alright, let's be real. Itachi and Imu are incredibly strong within their own verses, but compared to Ichigo, who defeated beings like Yhwach and Aizen, the difference in power is just astronomical. Now, don't get me wrong, Itachi is an incredible strategist whose Genjutsu and Mangekyo abilities can end fights instantly against many opponents. But by the end of Bleach, Ichigo possesses one of the greatest combinations of speed, strength, and spiritual power in anime. His hybrid nature grants him access to Soul Reaper, Hollow, and Quincy abilities, allowing him to overwhelm enemies that threaten entire realms. And as I mentioned, he was powerful enough to stand against Yhwach, a being capable of reshaping reality and altering the future itself, meaning the Bleach universe gets its first point as well. Next, we have the letter J. Here we can go with either Jiren, the Pride Trooper of Universe 11, and one of the strongest mortals in Dragon Ball Super. His overwhelming strength, speed, and durability allowed him to overpower even opponents on the level of Gods of Destruction. Or we can go with Jotaro, the legendary stand user from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. His stand, Star Platinum, possesses incredible speed, precision, and physical strength, but its defining ability is stopping time for several seconds. But the one I'm actually going with here is Jin Woo. You see, by the end of the series, he possesses immense strength, lightning-fast speed, regeneration, shadow teleportation, and commands an army of countless shadow soldiers. On top of that, he's literally immortal and the very embodiment of death and darkness. So we'll be going with Jin Woo here, meaning the solo leveling universe also gets its very first point. Next, we have the letter K, where the first character is Kafka Hibino, who gained the power of Kaiju number 8 and became humanity's greatest weapon against giant monsters. Another contender is Kaido. Known as the strongest creature in the world, Kaido was one of the 4 emperors of the sea. His mythical Zoan Devil Fruit grants him the ability to transform into a massive azure dragon, while his mastery of all 3 forms of Haki, especially advanced Conqueror's Haki, makes him an absolute monster in combat. Then we have Kakashi Hatake, the copy ninja and one of the most skilled shinobi in Naruto. And how can we forget Kurapika, a Nen prodigy driven by revenge against the Phantom Troop. His chain abilities are incredibly versatile, with Emperor Time allowing him to utilize every Nen category at 100% efficiency. Now, truth be told, they're all incredibly strong combatants, but not as strong as our final option, Kenpachi Zaraki. Kenpachi is the embodiment of raw combat power in Bleach. Even before unlocking his true potential, he overwhelmed elite captains through sheer strength alone. By the 1,000-year Blood War, his spiritual pressure alone is enough to overwhelm elite opponents, and his Bankai multiplies his already already absurd physical power to terrifying levels. He doesn't rely on complicated techniques or elaborate strategies. He simply wins by being overwhelmingly stronger than almost anyone standing in front of him. So for the letter K, we're taking Kenpachi. And with that, the Bleach universe earns its second point. Next, it's time for the letter L. Here, the characters we have are Light Yagami, Lelouch, Levi, and Luffy. Now, I won't drag this one out too much. I think we can all agree that Luffy outclasses them all by a huge margin. Don't get me wrong, Light and Lelouch are both terrifying because of their intellect. Given enough preparation, they can manipulate entire nations and eliminate enemies without ever throwing a punch. However, in a direct fight, neither possesses the physical abilities needed to stand against monsters like Luffy or even Levi for that matter. But Luffy, with Gear 5 and his advanced haki, possesses overwhelming strength, capable of defeating emperors, durability that lets him endure unimaginable punishment, and speed that allows him to keep up with the strongest fighters in One Piece. Compared to that, no one among the other three really stands a chance. Oh, and one more thing. The Death Note isn't going to work on him either, considering it only works on humans, while Luffy is now the legendary sun god Nika. So, One Piece finally enters the field and earns its first point. Next, we have the alphabet M. Alright, here we have quite the lineup of characters. First, we have Makima, who, through her control ability, can dominate those she considers inferior, command powerful devils, and transfer fatal damage to others through contracts. The next character is Mob, an Esper with psychic abilities so immense that they defy imagination. At 100%, and especially in his berserk state, he can effortlessly level cities, manipulate matter, generate barriers, and overcome virtually any psychic opponent. We also have Mash Bernadette, who is basically a guy born without magic in a world ruled by magic, but with Saitama-like physical power. Another contender is Meliodas, the Dragon Sin of Wrath. His Demon King powers, full counter, immense regeneration, and overwhelming physical abilities place him among the strongest beings in his universe. At his peak, he possesses enough power to challenge gods and reshape the balance of the world. Speaking of gods, how can we forget Madara, one of the strongest shinobi in history? As the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, he wielded the Rinnegan, Six Paths powers, Limbo clones, and truth-seeking orbs, making him a god-level threat in Naruto. Now don't get me started on Mereoleona either, who by the end of Black Clover literally entered the domain of the gods. Well, these are all incredibly strong contenders, but the one I'm actually going with is none other than Milim Nava. You see, as a true demon lord, her mana breed reactor generates an infinite supply of stardust energy, the primordial energy used to create worlds. On top of that, her attack, Stardust Breaker, dismantles targets at both the molecular and spiritual level, bypassing conventional physical durability. Not to mention, her ultimate skill, Sataniel, grants her complete immunity to mental control, meaning Makima's control and Madara's genjutsu are completely ineffective against her. She could simply blow up the entire planet they're standing on. So with that said, that time I got reincarnated as a slime gets its first point as well. Next, for the letter N, we basically have two characters, Naruto and Natsu. Now, both are among the absolute strongest in their respective verses. Natsu has defeated enemies who were considered impossible to overcome and has repeatedly surpassed his own limits through sheer determination. But Naruto, by the end of Naruto Shippuden, is simply on another level. At his peak, he combines overwhelming physical strength with incredible speed and massive chakra reserves. Not to mention his Sage Mode, which dramatically enhances his senses and reactions, while his Rasengan variants carry enough destructive force to threaten planetary-level enemies. On top of that, Kurama's chakra grants him immense durability, rapid healing, and the stamina to fight at full power for extended periods. Natsu is incredibly strong, no doubt, but Naruto clearly has the edge here, so we'll be taking Naruto, and with that, the Naruto universe now has 2 points. Next, with the letter O, we once again have just two characters, Okarun and Obito. Alright, no need to drag this one out. While Okarun has become an incredibly powerful fighter and Dandadan, Obito simply operates on a completely different level. By the end of Naruto Shippuden, Obito became the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki and gained overwhelming speed, immense durability, truth-seeking orbs which are capable of erasing almost anything they touch, and enough raw power to challenge Naruto, Sasuke, and the strongest shinobi alive. Against an opponent on that level, Okarun simply doesn't have the tools to compete, meaning the Naruto universe gets its third point as well, and is now closing the gap with Dragon Ball. Now, before we move ahead, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going. Next, we have the alphabet P. For this one, we have Piccolo and Pain. Now, Pain's Rinnegan makes him one of the most versatile fighters in Naruto. He can repel attacks, pull opponents toward him, summon massive creatures, absorb absorb energy and devastate entire villages with a single almighty push. However, Piccolo in his Orange Piccolo form simply scales far beyond that level, allowing him to battle enemies capable of threatening entire planets with ease. Even series creator Akira Toriyama stated that Orange Piccolo finally gives him power that rivals Goku and the others. So yeah, there's really no debate here. The Dragon Ball universe gets its 5th point and maintains its lead. After this, we have Alphabet Q. Well, we only have one option here, and that's Queen from One Piece. He is one of Kaido's 3 All-Stars and a brilliant scientist who once worked alongside Vegapunk and Judge. Thanks to his ancient Zoan Brachiosaurus Devil Fruit, he possesses incredible physical strength and durability. On top of that, he enhanced his body with cybernetic weapons, lasers, deadly viruses, and abilities inspired by Germa 66, making him an incredibly versatile and dangerous fighter. Now, since we don't have another option here, there's really nothing more to explain. One Piece gets this point. Next, we have the Alphabet R. Alright, I'll be straight here. I know there are a lot of options to consider, but why bother when we already know who's coming out on top? You see, the one we're talking here is none other than Rimuru Tempest. While he begins the series as a weak slime, by the end, he scales to a multiversal, near omnipotent, and immortal level. Rimuru can manipulate causality, rewrite the laws of reality, nullify concepts, and regenerate even from spiritual erasure. And if you've watched our previous videos, you already know just how much of a menace this guy really is. So yeah, that time I got reincarnated as a slime gets another point. Next, we have the Alphabet S. Here, we can take the King of Curses, Sukuna. With his mastery of cursed energy, malevolent shrine, world-cutting slashes, and unparalleled combat skill, Sukuna dominates almost every fight he's involved in. But I think we can all agree that Saitama easily outclasses him in basically every category. I mean, he is our caped Baldy after all, so we're going with Saitama here, right? Not really. You see, the one I'm actually going for is none other than Shinra Banshoman from Fire Force. Don't get me wrong, Saitama's limitless growth and absurd physical strength make him one of anime's greatest powerhouses. He has repeatedly shattered expectations by effortlessly defeating enemies that should have been impossible to overcome. But despite his ridiculous strength, his feats are still primarily based on overwhelming physical power. When you compare that to Shinra Banshoman, who can literally rewrite reality, recreate the universe, manipulate fundamental concepts, and reshape existence according to his own will, yeah, based on the feats we've seen so far, Saitama has never defeated someone on that level. So for this one, we're going with Shinra Banshoman. And with that, the Fire Force universe earns its very first point. Next, we have the Alphabet T. For this one, the very first obvious option is Tanjiro, who mastered both the water-breathing and the legendary sun-breathing styles. But someone even stronger than him is Toji. Born without cursed energy, he was granted a heavenly restriction that pushed his physical abilities to superhuman levels. His incredible speed, reflexes, battle IQ, and mastery of cursed tools allowed him to defeat elite sorcerers, including young Gojo Satoru. But the one who outclasses them both is none other than Tatsumaki. Also known as the Tornado of Terror, Tatsumaki is the strongest Esper in One Punch Man. Her telekinetic abilities allow her to lift entire cities, create nearly impenetrable psychic barriers, manipulate countless objects simultaneously, and crush even dragon-level monsters with ease. I mean, she's officially the #2 hero in the One Punch Man universe, which, truth be told, is basically the #1 if you know what I mean. So we'll be going with Tatsumaki here. And with that, the One Punch Man universe gets its very first point. Next, with the letter U, we just have 2 characters, Usopp and Uryu Ishida. Now, I would have given this one to God Usopp, but he told me he's already won enough of these kinds of rounds, so he wanted to give this one away to the next person. It's not like he's going to lose, it's just what he wanted. Oh, and he also asked me to tell you guys to subscribe to the channel for more anime content like this in the future. So, moving on to Uryu Ishida, Uryu is a Quincy and one of the strongest fighters in Bleach. During the 1,000-year Blood War, he awakened the Shrift A, the Antithesis, an incredibly broken ability that allows him to reverse any event that has already occurred between 2 targets. This power is so absurd that Yowatch himself acknowledged it as the only ability capable of potentially countering his own future-altering power, the Almighty. Well, there's really nothing more to explain here. The Bleach universe gets yet another point. Next, we have the Alphabet V. Now, this is probably going to be the most controversial and definitely one of the hardest choices, because here we have Veldora Veldora, and Vegeta. When it comes to Vegeta, he is one of the strongest fighters in Dragon Ball, and Goku's greatest rival. With Ultra Ego, he grows stronger as he takes damage, possesses overwhelming speed and destructive power, and has repeatedly battled opponents capable of threatening entire universes. On the other hand, Veldora isn't just a powerhouse. He's a true dragon, a race that exists on an entirely different level of existence. Even if Veldora's physical body is completely vaporized, he'll simply resurrect as his soul is anchored to the universe itself. Not only that, with his probability manipulation, Veldora can literally alter the laws of probability, bending events in his favor. So if you ask me, I'd be going with Veldora here. But hey, comment down below, who do you think is stronger, Veldora or Vegeta? For now, we're giving one more point to the "that time I got reincarnated as a slime" universe. Next, for the letter W, we really only have one option, and that's none other than Whis. You see, Whis isn't just stronger than Goku and Vegeta, he exists on an entirely different level. Throughout Dragon Ball Super, he effortlessly avoids attacks from both Saiyans at the same time, while treating their training sessions as nothing more than light exercise. Even Beerus, the god of destruction, acknowledges Whis' overwhelming superiority. I don't think this guy needs any more explanation, so the Dragon Ball universe gets another point. The same goes for the letter X, where we also only have one option, X Drake. As a member of the worst generation, X Drake is far stronger than the average pirate. His ancient Zoan transformation grants him monstrous physical strength, durability, and endurance, allowing him to withstand attacks that would defeat most fighters. On top of that, his marine training and combat experience make him a disciplined and tactical warrior rather than someone who relies purely on brute force. And since we don't have any other character here, this point goes directly to the One Piece universe. Next, we have the alphabet Y. The very first option here is Yuji Itadori. By the end of the series, he possesses blood manipulation, shrine techniques inherited from Sukuna, reverse curse technique, black flash mastery, and incredible combat instincts. I mean, you've all seen just how strong he became in JJK Modulo. The next option is Yuno, the prodigy of the Clover Kingdom, and one of Black Clover's strongest magic knights, second only to Asta, of course. But the one we're actually going with is none other than Yhwach. After absorbing the Soul King, he gained the Almighty, one of the most broken abilities in anime. Rather than merely predicting the future, Yhwach can see countless futures and rewrite them to ensure the outcome he desires. He can nullify abilities before they affect him, surviving seemingly fatal attacks and alter reality itself to maintain his advantage. On top of this overwhelming hacks, Yhwach possesses immense spiritual power, incredible durability, regeneration, and enough raw strength to threaten the balance of multiple realms. Defeating him requires far more than overwhelming force. It requires bypassing an ability that manipulates fate itself. So for the letter Y, Yhwach is our undeniable pick, meaning the Bleach universe gets yet another point and moves into second place right behind Dragon Ball. And finally, we have the letter Z. Now, there's really only one candidate here who surpasses almost everyone else, Zeno. You see, Zeno, also known as the Omni King, is the supreme ruler of the multiverse in Dragon Ball. He doesn't rely on martial arts, transformations, or complicated techniques. Instead, he possesses perhaps the most terrifying ability in anime, absolute erasure. If Zeno decides something shouldn't exist, it simply ceases to exist, whether it's a single person, an entire universe, or even an entire timeline. Well, that's pretty much it. With that, the final point goes to the Dragon Ball universe as well. And here you can see the final universe rankings, where Dragon Ball takes first place while Bleach finishes in second. Now click on this video next, where we made the strongest villains tournament in anime history. Go on, check it out.